Good afternoon, comrades, and thank you for joining us on this live stream to celebrate the anniversary of the October Revolution and the anniversary of the founding of the International Brigades. We're celebrating these two events today in a reduced capacity because of the pandemic, but we're glad that you can join us online, and we're happy to celebrate these in any way we can. And of course, the most meaningful way to celebrate the October Revolution and to remember the brave volunteers of the International Brigades is to get involved in the struggle, is to build a live, vibrant, working class movement that can really challenge the things that these brave people were fighting against. And these two events are very similar in many ways. They were both working class uprisings against imperialism. In the case of the October Revolution, the Bolsheviks and the working classes and peasants of Russia rose up and fought against, firstly, the Tsar in the February Revolution, and then the Social Democrats who continued the First World War and Russia's involvement in it in the October Revolution. In the case of the International Brigades, we saw international volunteers from across Europe and across the world in the context of fascism rising across Europe, in Germany and Italy in the post-war period, coming to fight against fascism in Spain. Now, why did they do this? Why did they give up whatever lives they had before to go and fight in a country that was not their own? Well, the answer is that they were proletarian internationalists, and they recognised that the working class has no country of its own, or it didn't until the Soviet Union was founded in 1917. But they recognised the need to fight against fascism, and fascism was a reaction in Europe against inter-imperialist domination and wars to divide the world. And it saw the crushing of working class movements in Germany and Italy, which were some of the most vibrant and large in Europe at the time. And that's something we have to remember. Fascism is a response to a working class that is standing up for itself, that is fighting for its rights, that is fighting against the oppression, domination and exploitation in this world. And it's something that we can still recognise in Britain today. The reasons for the world wars, the reasons for fascism has not disappeared today just because we've had a few decades since that time. The causes are still laid in the bones of capitalism. And we have to understand this history in order to understand what we can do to build a better future. Because these were responses to people fighting and struggling for a better future for themselves and their families, for working class standing up for itself. So I'm going to ask you to give a couple of minutes silence, 2 minutes silence, as we lay a wreath in memorial of the brave volunteers of the International Brigades, some 1,800 of which came from Britain, and most of whom were communists, and the fighters in the October Revolution who overthrew oppression, and the workers who built that state into a place that was the envy of the world, that led to workers in Britain and the rest of the world questioning, why can't we have healthcare? Why can't we have education? Why can't we have jobs? And it's particularly poignant to ask those questions today, as in Britain we see rising inequality, rising poverty. Some 5 million, at least by the end of this year, will be facing destitution, uncertain whether they can afford shelter, food, whether they can even take their kids to school. The Economist ran a story recently about the revival of stately homes in Britain. The ultra-rich, the ultra-wealthy are building modern-day feudal palaces in the countryside, while hundreds, if not thousands of children are living in temporary accommodation without access to adequate food, without access to even education. We are returning to Victorian times, and that is something we have to realise and organise to fight against. But now I'll ask you to join us in 2 minutes silence as we lay a wreath in memorial of these brave fighters, fighters of the working class. Thank you.